Welcome back, everyone, to Tips and Tools. We're going to continue our conversation with anxiolytics and anxiety. If you haven't become anxious yet, just hang in there. But now we're going to talk about anxiolytics and the specific ones. But are they always good for us or not? Dr. G, welcome back from the break.
Thank you. So anxiolytics.
Anxiolytics. And
so generally what we have, there's certainly very solid groups of anxiolytics that are more or less guaranteed to work. The barbiturates group, benzodiazepines, and then beta blockers. And then also alcohol can serve initially as an anxiolytic. And there is a reason for that. All these categories, more or less, their main effect is that they increase GABA. There's a neurotransmitter in our system, in our brain, that by its increase immediately leads to decrease of worries and agitation. Now, if we remember, we talked about that distinction between more of a mental type of anxiety and a bodily type of anxiety. The mental type of anxiety they're more responding to the barbiturates and benzodiazepines, whereas the bodily anxious sensations, they are more reactive to the beta blockers. So for someone who, let's say, has public speaking fear, public speaking a lot of times has to do with this bodily anxiety and sensation. And that's why a lot of the patients who just want to get over their public speaking anxiety, they're prescribed beta blockers, because it just kind of calms the body, and while your mind is still sharp, if you will, and our mind and mental processes are registering a calm sense of bodily self. As a result, there is kind of the interpretation of that is everything is okay. If my body feels nice and warm and cozy and in shape and everything is great, then why would I need to worry, right? So that kind of almost has like not necessarily a paradoxical effect, but a more of, I would say, a magical effect. It's based on reaction. We will talk about that later on. So we are reacting to our body being calm, so our mind calms down as well, right? And then you can do public speaking in a much better fashion. So that's one distinction, if you will, between those two categories, beta blockers versus the other categories. Now, barbiturates and benzodiazepines, again, just like alcohol, they increase GABA. So our anxiety kind of is reduced, and also certainly with mental processes. So if we are worrying much, if we are frustrated about a certain situation, if we are, again, nervous and anxious, that's where barbiturates and benzodiazepines come very handy. So we ultimately, the main effect is this calmness, this relaxed state of being and thinking. And
do they relax your thinking too much?
Well, it can. And that's the side effects, if you will, and which are
beta
pretty bad.
Were physiological, but the barbiturates and the benzos can slow you.
More mental. Yeah, it can slower.
So don't use those before public speaking.
No, better not, because also, especially if you are not quite sure about the dose that you're taking, it can make you have a slurry speech and slow mind, slow mental process. It slows things down, right? And it can also be used more or less as narcotic as well, because it can put you to sleep. A lot of people who go to surgery, they, kind of outpatient surgery, they are told to take a lot of Xanax, right? Like 4 or 5 pills in order to really kind of put them in a semi-sleep mode where their mind and brain, if you will, and also, also their body is kind of shutting down. It's on the way to being groggy and sleepy and being knocked out.
Where does Xanax fall in this category?
That's an anxiolytic.
Anxiolytic.
Yeah, so Xanax is an anxiolytic.
Is it a benzodiazepine?
It's a benzodiazepine, yeah. So, and then alcohol, even though it more accurately fits into the depressant category because of its end effect, the end outcome, the ultimate outcome of drinking a lot of alcohol is being depressed. But the beginning, initial reaction that people have to alcohol because it increases GABA is this reduction in worries and anxieties. That's why a lot of people also, like before a date, if you will, or a meeting, like a corporate meeting, which shouldn't be happening, but that's exactly what's happening, more or less, where people just kind of take a shot of whatever alcoholic drink in order to take that edge off, right?
Yeah.
What is that edge? It's that anxious state of mind that I'm going to meet a person. Oh my God, so it's so exciting, but I have these butterflies and anxious, so I want to kind of reduce that anxiety, initial anxiety, which works. It actually works, right?
A lot of people do it at the bars before they go up to somebody and ask them.
Yeah, at the bars, or it can be, again, corporate meetings or kind of maybe even public meetings, anywhere where people may feel a little bit anxious, right? And alcohol is kind of permitted or allowed.
Let me ask you a quick question here just for a second. That also seems like it might be contingent upon their self-esteem a little bit.
Well, sure.
So that does play a little bit of a part in it.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, yeah, for sure. There's a lot. It has a lot to do with self-confidence, self-esteem, self-reflection, self-image. But going back to the actual side effects of anxiolytics, well, it can be dangerous. So they're very addictive, all of them, as we mentioned. People easily get used to it. Our tolerance changes very quickly. We habituate to the amount that we take, so our body adjusts itself, and then it starts craving more, right? Because who doesn't like to remain in that type of a state of, relaxed mind and body? Everybody loves that, right?
So are they creating the mood, or are they creating the actual chemical reaction? What are they creating?
Craving? Oh,
yeah. What are they
well,
craving?
both. If you think
Both?
about it, when the effects of an anxiolytic tapers off to the point where the body has metabolized most of the substance, right, which may take anywhere between few hours to, let's say, a day or two, depending on how much we have drunk, right? Or maybe at times for a chronic, let's say, alcoholic or someone who is highly dependent on a prescription medication, then it may even be 3 days, 5 days, a week, right? So it really depends on the person and alcohol or substance consumption. But as soon as basically we have stopped the consumption and some time has passed, our body starts this craving, because it has become so dependent on it for internal regulation, because all the neurotransmitters are now regulated externally by taking the medication. So when I stop that, the neurotransmitters cannot immediately switch back to an internal regulation.